Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Tina Bowers, the Chief Diversity Officer, Vice President at Children's Health based in Dallas, Texas. Children's Health is the largest healthcare provider for children in North Texas. Children's Health resides in the Southwest Medical District with our partner in health care institutions, Parkland Hospital and Health System, which is our public health system, and UT Southwestern Medical Center, which is North Texas's oldest academic medical center. It is my honor to welcome you to today's panel discussion on an important issue facing society and healthcare: diversity in the medical profession, equity and quality in care, and cultural effectiveness in care delivery. Our panel is based on the inspiring work of Dr. Dale Okorodudu, who is the founder of Black Men in White Coats. As a young doctor, Dr. Okorodudu was inspired by an AAMC research led by UT Southwestern's Dr. Mark Nevay, who at the time was with the American Association of Medical Centers. He was inspired about the surprisingly and troublingly low number of Black men entering the profession in 2014 versus 1978. Shocked by this data, Dr. Dale was moved to make a difference. The result? He established Black Men in White Coats. This initiative is many things. It's a youth summit hosted at school campuses across the country to inspire young men and young women, especially Black and other youth of color, to consider being a doctor or nurse or healthcare technician. It is a series of blogs and vlogs with Black doctors about their care journeys, pitfalls, and their successes. And now it is a documentary. Add to this the 3 books by Dr. Okorodudu about becoming a doctor, and you have an amazing set of information. We at Children's Health, Parkland, and UT Southwestern are actively working individually and as a collective to expand the pipeline of future doctors and nurses and other healthcare providers of color. We will be discussing this on our panel today. I am pleased to introduce our next speaker and my colleague, Dr. Mark Nevay. Dr. Nevay is the Executive Vice President for Institutional Advancement at UT Southwestern. He is a recognized expert on diversity, equity, and inclusion work in healthcare and society. And speaking to the power of one person to influence another, his research inspired one person to take up the issue and work to make a difference for all. And that was Dr. Dale. Dr. Nevay, the virtual podium is yours.
Thank you, Tina, and thank you to Children's Health, for partnering with us, and certainly Parkland Health for partnering with us here at UT Southwestern to make today's panel a reality. It really is an exciting next hour that I think we all have planned for you. I want to echo the welcome to many of our guests on Zoom and Twitter today who have joined us for this important conversation. I want to give a special shout out to the Barack Obama Male Leadership Academy. I'm sorry, we couldn't get there this year like we have the past few years, but I hope we will be back there once we're post-COVID again. So shout out to all of the young brothers over there. So glad that you could participate and be with us today. So the issue of diversity in the medical profession has long been one, many of us industry leaders have been discussing for a long time. And here at UT Southwestern, we've been working to transform that reality to increase the pipeline of our best and brightest and diverse in a number of ways. We're committed to recruiting and developing a student body that encompasses a high level of diversity, and we offer a number of programs and organizations to support the needs and career aspirations of our students, particularly those from underrepresented minority groups. We start with younger kids to educate them that a career in medicine is possible. We mentor high school and college students through the Texas Joint Admissions Medical Program, a state-sponsored program supporting and encouraging high-qualified, economically disadvantaged Texas residents pursuing medical education. We bring students in junior high and high school to campus through UT Southwestern STARS program to learn about research and healthcare opportunities, healthcare jobs. We work with minority applicants to enter UT Southwestern Medical School to learn more about our campus and encourage them to choose us for their future medical education. One of my panelists here leads our faculty, Dr. Quinn Capers leads our faculty diversity effort. So it's not enough that we want you to come to medical school here. We certainly want all of you that are interested in becoming leaders and academic medicine to think about, coming here as a faculty member as well. So we'll get into that a little bit later as well. So just to get us started, we're going to talk to Dale Okorodudu and his filmmaker, Micah Archery. Let them tell you a little bit about, what they've accomplished, a little bit about the film before we sort of dive into the panel. So first we have Dr. Okorodudu, and he's the person, as you heard, that had this fantastic idea, reviewing that research from the AAMC. He's the reason that we're convened today. Many years ago, he heard me present, as you heard, at the AAMC, and it's really nice to have someone take that data, take that insight, and actually do something with it, which is what Dr. Dale Okorodudu has done. You heard he's an author, speaker, educator, and medical doctor. His passion is to inspire and mentor young Black men pursuing careers in medicine. What he says is, people are not expecting them to be successful, but he's wanting everyone to expect the unexpected. And Dale, you've created a wave of change in your work, and thank you. And joining Dale is Micah Archery, as I said, a serial entrepreneur. Micah began his journey while in high school doing freelance video production work. Micah currently owns Motion Arts, a full-service multimedia production and branding company that allows him to continually pursue his passions in filmmaking and entrepreneurship. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Okorodudu and Micah.
Thank you, Dr. Nevay. So before I say anything, I'm going to thank UT Southwestern. I'm going to thank Parkland. I'm going to thank Children's. To work in an institution and be affiliated with a place like this that actually supports the missions, the activities that we do around this topic means a lot. So a lot of places wouldn't do that. So first of all, thank you to UT Southwestern and the leadership specifically. And then I'll thank Mike, and I'll thank everybody else on the panel and everybody watching. I'll let Micah talk here in a second, but I just want to just kind of take a step back and talk about Black men and white coats while we started this again. So it all started in 2013. AAMC in 2012 initially put out a small paper saying that the number of Black men applying to medical school in 2011 was less than it was in 2002. So we saw that paper, we put a video out online. We had no idea Black men and white coats would turn into what it's become today. The idea was just to put a YouTube video out and try to get conversation started. One thing led to another. In 2015, Dr. Nevay, AAMC put out a bigger report, and things just continued to spiral down from there. And as you heard, that's turned into summits and books and all sorts of things. And now there's documentary, which I hope all of you will take an opportunity and actually watch it. It's a team effort. That's what I'm going to start off by saying. First of all, it's a big team effort. So, my name's been tossed around a lot, but there's people on this panel. Dr. Quinn Capers, he's been a mentor. He's been doing this type of work for a long time, and a lot of other people. So if you watch this and take nothing else out of here, what I really hope that everybody takes out of here is the fact that we need all of you. We need your help. Everybody who's watching this, everybody who's tuned in, we need your help. We need you to support. Watch the documentary. Tell your friend. Get involved. Mentor somebody. And just thank you for joining. Now, I'm going to let Micah come on. And Micah, I think it'd be kind of cool if you just tell people about what your experience was working with us in the documentary and some things from your perspective, what you learned about it as somebody who's not in the medical field, but somebody who had a firsthand, tickets to the show.
Absolutely. So I think the first thing for me was working on this project as a Black male. It wasn't just another film project for me. It was about making change in my community, right? For my family, for myself, for my future kids, and like I said, for my community. So I think that was really, really important for me. Just as a layman that doesn't have any type of clinical background, learning about these different health disparities and how more Black men in white coats could close these health disparities and maybe improve the life expectancy for Black men was really important for me. So I got, like you said, Dale, a firsthand account to be able to interview some of the best doctors in the country about this topic. And so I was honored to be a part of it and, make the change and empower people, like you said, to get involved to help make this change.
Awesome. So I'm going to spend a couple minutes just telling you guys some of the cool things about making the film and some of the things that if we don't say it now, otherwise people would never know, just for a little bit of fun, bring some fun to this before we get into the real meat of the discussion. So in the documentary, there's a barbershop scene. Of course, the barbershop is a staple in the Black community. So we put a barbershop scene in the documentary, and you watch the scene and you never know all the things that were going on. But that night that we actually filmed that scene was shortly after George Floyd's death, right? And so we're there in the barbershop. We had no idea there was going to be a rally in Dallas, Texas. So we show up and there's 1 million cars outside of downtown Dallas. And we're like, what's going on? We go into the barbershop and we walk outside and there's people with all sorts of heavy duty artillery, guns, all sorts of things who are not police. And so we're just completely shocked. And It was very fascinating, but that whole entire night, the barbershop scene, Mike and his team did a great job putting it all together. But what was really going on in the background was police sirens were going up and down the streets the whole night. People were outside that barbershop screaming, running, all sorts of stuff was going on that night. And it was very fascinating to us because here we are making a documentary about Black men in white coats, the need for more Black men to enter the field of medicine so we could address healthcare disparities and things of that sort. But right outside the window is the issue that we're actually trying to address. It's happening literally right there while we're there in that barbershop. So that's one of the things of the film during the making the film process that really hit home with me throughout that whole entire process. Mike, I would ask you, just while you've got everybody in front of you, if there was one thing that you want people to take away from this documentary, you're not in the field again, but you're a filmmaker, you're more the arts guy. What would that one thing be for you?
Absolutely. I think it's all about exposure. I've told you this before, Dale. I didn't meet my first Black male doctor till I was a senior in college. I was 22 years old when I met my first Black male physician. I believe if I had met a Dale or a Dr. Nevay or any other type of physician before I was in high school or in college, it could have potentially changed the trajectory of my career. And so what I wanted to do with this film with Dale, with Black Men in White Coats as an organization, was bring exposure they are people that are out there like Dale that are Black men in white coats. And a big theme of the film is you can't be what you can't see. So it's all about exposure, letting little Black boys and girls know that they can achieve that greatness and, be in a white coat or just have a great professional career overall.
Excellent. And then one thing that Micah and I talked about, which was a big struggle for us. So we're making a film. We want as many people as possible to see this film about Black men in white coats because we want to inspire change. And we talked to a lot of producers in the industry, right? People that you may or may not recognize their work. And they told us, they said, hey, Dale, you can go one of two ways with this. You can either say, we want to be on the biggest platforms and do all this, Netflix, all that stuff. If you go that direction, you're gonna have to make a certain type of film that's spicy, that's controversial, things of that sort. Or you could go out there and try to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, which is make a film that's going to reach the right people and that's going to hopefully impact change. So Mike and I went, and a mentor, John Boaz, my brother, Dr. Daniel, we went back and forth over this a million times. And we finally concluded on making the film that hopefully you've seen or you will see. And at the end of the day, our ultimate goal was the theme of empowerment. And Micah said it multiple times, as we've done some other things. Micah repeatedly says, we didn't want anybody to watch this film and feel as though, we're claiming victimhood or anything of that sort for young Black boys and Black girls. We want everybody to leave this film and understand that everybody can contribute. Everybody should be empowered. The young Black boy should be empowered. The young Black girl should be empowered. The white male, the white woman, no matter what you look like, you should feel empowered to contribute to the solution, because it's not just impacting the Black community. This is something that legitimately impacts everybody. And if I dare say people didn't quite understand that 2 years ago after COVID, I think everybody understands what we mean now. So it's an important thing. And what we really want to do is find a way to engage all of you who are listening. Everybody can contribute in some shape or form. Micah, any major other message that you would like for the listeners, anybody to hear?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Dale. Empowerment. It's not a victim mentality. It's not victimhood. We can go out there and achieve that greatness, and everybody's empowered to get involved and find a solution to this problem, and it'll make it better for everyone.
Yeah. So I'm getting ready to pass it back to the great Dr. Nevay. But before I do that, just again, a few more thanks from my standpoint. First of all, thank you to Micah, Archery, and the All Motion Arts team, because finding the right people to bring something like this to life is important. So people say, okay, you guys have been working on this film for 2 years. Well, this film has been in my head for at least 8 years. We've been processing, planning in my head for 8 years. And to find the right person who can take something out of your head and bring it to fruition to impact that change, it means a lot to me, Micah. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the work that you all did and taking my calls all night today. Dr. Mark Nevay, the spark plug for all of this. None of this happens without Dr. Nevay. So thank you for being that first one to bring something to light like this. And give us an opportunity to work on it, right? Dr. Quinn Capers, a mentor to many of us across the country. If you mention any issue about diversity, African-American in the field of medicine, Quinn Capers' name comes up. Dr. Cedric Bright, everybody in the film, Bill McDade, I can go on and on and on, right? The film is full of just geniuses in the space, Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice. So thank you to all of those people, because none of this happens without people being involved, people supporting our work, people doing the right. It's a team effort. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Hill Harper, Shane Battier, Jerome Adams, everybody who contributed to this. Thank you all so much. And again, UT Southwestern, thank you for supporting the work that we're doing and letting us be a part of this and just backing our mission. With that, Dr. Nevay, thank you. I'm going to pass the mic back to you, sir.
Thank you, Dale. We so appreciate you, and Micah, appreciate those comments. I really encourage everyone, if you've not yet had a chance to see the film, I encourage you to do so. It's certainly available, but it's really going to be available around the country also. So it's really nice that we're starting it right here in Dallas, Texas. So a big thanks again to you, Dale. So let's get started with our panel discussion. I'm going to do some kind of brief introductions, and before getting into a Q&A, really just ask each panelist to tell a little bit about their journey and a little bit about their experience. So they'll be joining Dale on this panel, and you all know who Dale is at this point. So let's start with the future Dr. Cameron Holmes. He's a third-year medical school student here at UT Southwestern Medical School. He's the first in his family to graduate college. Did a high school internship at Parkland's counterpart in Houston, Ben Taub Hospital. It helped him decide to pursue medicine. He attended Stanford University in California, then took a 2-year gap during which he studied for the MCAT, worked as a tutor for K through 12 students, and worked as an assistant artistic gymnastics coach at his former high school. He's interested in pursuing general or vascular surgery after medical school. So with that, welcome Cameron. Cameron, why don't you tell us a little bit about your motivation to pursue, a little bit more about your motivation to pursue medicine as a career, and who has mentored you along the way?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Nevay. What inspired me to pursue medicine was a lot of things. I would say one was my family. Being able to be the first doctor in my family was a strong driving force. And also my experiences in high school. I attended DeBakey High School for health professions. I didn't really want to do anything in the health field. I thought I would end up being a computer programmer or something. But in my 11th grade year, I did a preclinical preceptorship, and I really enjoyed shadowing anesthesiologists and surgeons. And I remember there was one time in the OR, I was shadowing the anesthesiologist, and the surgeon brought me over from behind the drape, showed me where I could stand, and really walked me through the procedure. And now I don't remember anything about that procedure, but I do remember that I didn't break sterile field, I didn't make a fool of myself, and it really demystified that side of medicine. So from there on, I really felt that was something that I could do. And I've had a lot of mentors along the way. My parents, fraternity brothers, a lot of people have just seen the passion that I have and have been able to just guide me along this journey.
I appreciate that, Cameron. I won't ask you what fraternity. I'm going to guess it's the wrong one. Next, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Barry Lewis Harris II. Dr. Harris is a family medicine trained physician who has a true passion for underserved communities with a spirit of caring for others before himself. He truly knows what it means to venture down the road less traveled, as his medical career has a unique yet rewarding aspect. His career goal is to improve the health outcomes of large population groups through health policy changes and culturally competent medical care. We welcome Dr. Harris to Dallas as the medical director of the Correctional Health Services for Parkland Health and Hospital Systems. It's only been here a few weeks, as I understand it. Dr. Harris, can you talk about your experience as a medical doctor in the South, and how you have expanded the profession for other doctors of color, and the mentoring work that you do? Tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to start out by saying that, when I think about mentoring, I think about a quote that Paul Robeson said, that to live without fear, to enjoy the fruits of our toil, it's like to give our children every opportunity in life, like a dream that we've held so long in our hearts, so that we can hold it in our hands. And right now, I think this movement is to help that. And I've been blessed to recently been chosen to be the medical director for correctional health here at Parkland. And it's my responsibility to ensure that those who are like temporary residents here at the Dallas County Jail have access to quality health care. But, we need to make sure that those people who we impact have a positive impact in the community when they leave. And so, as we mentioned, my path in career hasn't been ordered. I feel it's not been straight. It's had a few twists and turns, and I'm thankful for those experiences that have led me to this point in my life. And I've always had a spirit to give back and helping others. And this was instilled in me in a young age by my mother, who passed away yesterday, 10 years ago. And so that inspiration led me to the field of medicine. And then she instilled in me the need to give back, and that she always would say, hey, your name is really important and you need to help others. And so that has been my foundation and what has moved me to be who I am. So reflecting on my medical school years and like my residency journey, I realized that I truly needed someone to mentor me and help me along the way as I reflect. And so therefore, after, the struggle of getting through those two processes, I was like, I need to make sure. So working with the Student National Medical Association as a professional board member, and then becoming a professional board member emeritus, I've done work there. Also through my fraternity, I have worked in assisting others who are interested in medicine. Through church, I've also had programs that we have introduced medicine to young people to, even if they express the slightest interest in medicine, or they say, hey, I like your bow tie, what do you do? I say, I'm a physician, and versus saying a doctor, so they could understand the difference in that. And I'll, end maybe this comment by saying, Frederick Douglass said, it's not the light that we need, but fire. It's not a gentle shower, but thunder. And, we need a storm, we need a whirlwind, we need earthquake. And I'm not probably saying it as exactly how it is, but the point is, now more than ever, we need purposefully the ability to engage, to increase the number of Black men in white coats, because as I looked at the documentary last evening, I felt it spoke volumes that if we don't have people who look like the people that are being treated, we won't get the outcomes that we need. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you, Dr. Harris. Thank you for being here in Dallas and making the impact, on the medical services provided by Parkland and our Dallas County Correctional System. So we really appreciate you having here, and welcome to Dallas. Our final panelist that we want to introduce you to is my colleague here, Dr. Quinn Capers. You've heard a little bit about. Dr. Capers is an interventional cardiologist, professor of medicine at UT Southwestern, and a transformational leader in academic medicine. Dr. Capers was born in a hospital in Cleveland, Ohio that was started by Black physicians fed up with Cleveland's white hospitals denying them admitting privileges. He's the first generation college student and medical student. He would have loved for a program like Black Male in White Coats when he was a younger kid dreaming about being a physician. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Capers, also new to Dallas. So Dr. Capers, can you tell us about your work expanding the diversity of patients in your cardiology program back in Ohio, and your expertise in the profession broadly with diversity issues?
Sure. Thank you, Mark. Let me first say thank you. I want to thank Dr. Okorodudu. I want to thank Micah, first of all, for making this film, for allowing me to be a part of this film. I've watched it twice in the last 24 hours, and I found it very inspiring and very uplifting. So I am a doctor, but it is inspiring to me. I'm already here at the final stage, and it's uplifting to me. So thank you for carrying through on the inspiration. So the one driving force for me is trying to end healthcare disparities. I'll start by saying, when I try to think about why I wanted to become a doctor, people ask me that. I don't have a good answer other than knowing that it was always there. I always wanted that. So if you talk to men or women of the cloth, religious leaders, they talk about hearing the call to go into the ministry. I guess I heard the call to go into medicine because I never really thought of anything else. But something else about me, I was always very passionate also about racial justice, and I felt keenly racial injustice. Just as an example, I remember in high school English class, our English teacher would give us a prompt, and she'd say, write an essay in the next 30 minutes, write an essay. And I had a good buddy, and we would always look at each other's essays afterwards. He was writing essays like everybody else in the class about things like how to make a smoothie, or my favorite TV program. And I was writing about slave insurrection, slave revolts, and Nat Turner. It was just in me. So putting those two things together, having a keen sense for racial justice and wanting to be a physician, it's natural that one of my driving forces is trying to end healthcare disparities. And healthcare disparities are still kind of a stain on our system. And I like to think of almost like a mathematical equation, because there's so many things that go into it. So if this was an algebra equation, A plus B plus C plus D, all the way to W equals healthcare disparities. And so there are many things that have to happen to reduce them. The one thing that I have really enjoyed doing is working on diversifying medicine as a way to reduce healthcare disparities. So we did that at my previous institution, the Ohio State University in cardiology. They started their cardiology training program in the 1950s. And it wasn't until 2007 that they trained their first Black cardiologist. So a half a century in a state that's 13% Black, where no Black cardiologists had been trained. So when I came on in 2007, I worked with others and they thought we've got to change this. And now it's one of the most diverse cardiology training programs in the country. We did something similar when I was with Dean of Admissions there for 10 years and diversifying the medical school. So it's such a pleasure for me to be new to Dallas, new here with such wonderful heroes really in this space, like Dr. Nevay, like Dr. Okorodudu, and like others on this panel that I'm getting to meet, like Dr. Griffin. I'm looking forward to meeting Dr. Barry Lewis Harris. So I'm pleased to be here and to do what I can to help continue this work.
Thank you, Dr. Capers. He must have been fun as a child to be around writing about Nat Turner. I'd like to learn more about that, your childhood. So now that we've, you've given you a little bit background on each of our panelists, I think it's time just to dive in. We got a tremendous outpouring of questions, from all of you. So we're going to just dive in. I'm going to try to get as many questions answered, as possible. I'm going to ask the panelists to try to give some pithy answers, just so we get the get to the core of the question in your answer. So again, and then I hope, we can just pivot. If you feel the spirit moves you guys, just jump in. Don't wait for me to call on you. If you want to add to something, just jump in. So I'd ask, you guys as the panelists to keep your mics open so we can have a little bit of a free flowing conversation. So let's just start, and this question, Dale, I'm going to throw it to you. You've written books about this, but what challenges do our Black boys, just to be very clear, our Black boys face getting into medical school, or even thinking about medical school? So really early on, what are some of the challenges you've surfaced in your work?
I'm sure there's a million of them, but like I said, I'll be quick. Before I answer, we have a lot of people on here, so I'm just going to tell everybody watching, hit that share button, right? If you're watching on Facebook Live, Twitter, whatever, share it so other people can watch this and get involved in this discussion as well. So there's a lot of challenges. I'm going to go to one that I just think we need to pay attention to, and Dr. Capers, again, is very familiar with this, helped start a Twitter campaign called Black Men in Medicine. And that's the challenge of the perception of African-American men and what we're supposed to be in society. And Dr. Nevay, you actually talk about this in the film, about the soft bigotry of low expectations. It's this challenge that Black men aren't necessarily viewed as people who can excel academically. I always tell the story about when I was on the airplane. My sister just told me I've been telling the story wrong for years, but I was on an airplane flying from St. Louis to Chicago. I've been saying Houston, but she reminded me it's actually Chicago. And I sit down on the airplane. I'm a young Black male in college. I'm wearing big baggy hoodie, sweatpants, because that's how we dress. And I'm sitting there reading my chemistry book. And this is the part my sister reminded me of, because I told her when we landed. I'm reading my chemistry book on the airplane, and a woman approaches me on the airplane. She was a Caucasian woman. She approaches me on the airplane, sits next to me, and she asked me, what am I doing? What am I reading? And I say, I'm studying the chemistry book. And she asked me, are you studying to become a drug dealer? Right? And then she said, why do you dress like that? And I said, this is just how I dress. Why do you talk like that? Yo, doggy, you think you're cool or something? So for this whole flight, she's berating me. She's putting her expectations as to what she believes a young Black male should be. And she's putting it on me, somebody who's already accepted into medical school, somebody who did well academically. And I think that's a huge challenge, is the expectations society puts on Black men without letting Black men figure out what they want to do themselves. There's a million of them, but that's the one that I would say. So I just encourage people, don't put those expectations on our young Black men.
Anybody else want to add an additional, challenge that either you faced or you're aware of? And that's a tough one, Dale. Sure.
I think perception is so important. So Dale mentioned this social media campaign or Twitter campaign that he was a part of, that I was a part of, others were a part of, starting with the goal of let's flood. What would happen if we were to absolutely flood social media with images of Black male physicians? And we we did this, and it's the hashtag Black Men in Medicine. So we want all the viewers to get on Twitter, follow that hashtag, and put something out that's encouraging young people to go into medicine. We thought if we did that, we just might, and this might sound naive, but we thought we just might contribute to changing the nation's unconscious bias or unconscious association about Black men, so that it won't be unconsciously Black man equals danger. Maybe it will be Black man equals could be a physician. So that perception is so important. And our Black boys from, first, second, third grade on are really swimming upstream against those negative perceptions.
That's great. Dr. Harris, let me throw to you. You touched on mentorship a little bit. I wonder if you can maybe talk with a little more specificity on, how do you mentor young people in the profession? So these are whether medical students or fellows or residents, kind of what's your approach? What's your process?
So my approach is really being really real with those who I mentor. And most of the mentorships in my latter years have been direct referrals through colleagues or other family or friends, and through fraternal organizations that I've been associated with in the Divine Nine. So it's more of a one-on-one relationship where we're having conversations about studies, about priorities, about making sure that they are prepared, because preparation is a definite tool for success. One of the things I say a lot to them is to plan your work and work your plan, because if you don't, plan to be successful, then you're going to, be not successful. And so not be afraid of failure. Those are one of the things that we discuss, and always be open to having someone to give you criticism and look at it as an opportunity to move forward. So pretty much they're regular check-ins, those who are in medical school now and those who are pre-medical school. One of the things that I really stress, because a lot of the younger people right now are interested in, let's go have this party, let's go have this. And I'm like, I need you to graduate and then you can party all you want. And so that's been a definite theme that I have worked with them. And for those who want to go to medical school, I've said, you've got to prepare early and ensure that as you go into college, that you're thinking about this. And when you're in college, every class counts. That's been really important for me.
Yeah. There's a question that's came up a couple of times here now. It came over the transom here. And I guess I can ask this question to each of you, but I really am going to ask it to Cameron because he's more closest to it, as he's still a medical student. So what does it really take for a young Black man to get accepted into medical school?
Wow, so that's a tough one. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of dedication, I would say. It takes a lot of preparation and planning. You really have to be in the know to know what you need to do. There's, as soon as you walk onto campus as an undergraduate, you have to know that you need to get involved with the pre-med advisory group. You need to be involved with other pre-med so you kind of know what everyone is doing. So you know, like the lay of the land. It's kind of like a hidden curriculum. You may know your 4-year plan for your major and your minor, but as far as being prepared for medical school, as far as knowing when to start studying for the MCAT, when to start applying, all these different things aren't really taught to you. So you kind of have to seek mentorship, talk to older students. There's a lot of different things that you have to do, but it's not written down. It's not plain to see. You have to seek this information.
Quinn, you're a national expert on, kind of the admissions process, and maybe you can also give some concrete advice to maybe some college students, maybe even high school students already thinking about medical school now.
It's so important in wanting to be a doctor that you be a pre-planner. So that means starting early. That means in high school, of course, you need to be thinking about college, but where you go to college. I knew I wanted to be a doctor, so I looked at colleges and I said, it might make sense for me to pick a college that is a part of a university that has a medical school, because then as a student at that college, I could get some good advice from the people right there in the admissions office. That's the kind of pre-planning that it takes. But what you need to start thinking about if you're in high school now is pre-planning your summers. And I wish somebody would have told me this, because for me in high school, summers were for basketball and sleeping late. But those summers can really be time where you're doing something that helps your critical thinking. Don't, in other words, don't play all summer like I used to do. Think of what are some activities I can do that help with my critical thinking, my problem solving, and my test taking skills, because there are a lot of exams, a lot of tests that you have to take to kind of move through medicine. So the best advice I can give a youngster that wants to be a doctor is actually write it down. Start thinking about it now. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Think 4 steps in advance and talk to people who know. Very often we get our advice from people who think they have an idea, but maybe they don't. But by people who know, I mean pre-med advisors at college, a physician that maybe you're shadowing. Get advice from people who know, and there are books out there too. The Association of American Medical Colleges has wonderful resources that tell you what you need to do to be prepared for medical school. When I was in college, they had this book that I used to sleep with under my pillow. So thinking ahead and talking to people who know.
Yeah. So no, go ahead.
I want to just add that we've talked about academic preparation. We need to also talk about financial preparation, because a lot of times we have a disparity in the Black community of not having the resources to actually go to medical school or think we have the ability to go. So looking into those particular scholarships or loan programs or whatever you need before you are a part of the process, and talk to people about how they made it through, because the ability to get in and to stay in and to be successful will be based upon your ability to be financially sound.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to go in that direction with the next question, but let me just make a statement, because I think you've hit it, appropriately. I'm going to, implore all of you to not let, despite the sticker shock of medical education and all the things you hear about the indebtedness, the loans that students have, graduates of medical school have. I'm going to implore you to not quite ignore it, but to not let that be the barrier to stop you from, pursuing your dream. We talk about the debt, we don't talk enough about the scholarship and the opportunities and the amount of support that really is here for you. And if you are a talented, young Black male interested in medicine, we will find a way to get you through that. So I'm talking to the parents of those students who are listening. Money is not going to be the barrier, or don't let it be the barrier to stop you from your aspirations. So, Dr. Harris, I'm just glad you pointed that out as well as a potential barrier. I want to pivot that question, the previous question, a little bit, and Dale, throw it to you. It's one thing to do all of this pre-planning if you're in high school and you know you want to be a doctor, or you're in college and you're pre-med. What about, I'm in college, I'm already a junior, I've majored in education, and I make up my mind I want to be a doctor. Is it too late for me?
No, the answer is a firm no. And anybody who knows me knows that my crux is mentorship, right? So I would say the most important thing is you got to find the right mentors in life. Your network determines your level of success. Even at this point in time, I'm in academic medicine at UT Southwestern. My mentor is Dr. Byron Cryer, people like that. You put the right people in your corner to help move you down the line. So the first thing I would say is, if you're that student who is a junior, senior, even somebody who's graduated college already, and you say, I want to become a doctor, step number one is find a mentor, find somebody who can walk that journey with you. Having somebody who knows what to do is the quickest way to get you to where you want to go. But the answer is absolutely not. It's never too late. You hear stories about somebody like Dr. Carl Lambie, who was a 40-year-old car mechanic, goes back to medical school in his 40s and becomes a medical doctor. Those things are real. When I was in medical school, I had classmates who were in their 40s as well. It's about knowing what you want to do, deciding how bad you want it. And like Dr. Capers said, for him, it was a calling. Is this your calling? And then once you determine that, go in full force, but don't go in just willy-nilly trying to figure it out. Go in full force with a plan and somebody by your side who can walk that journey with you.
So this, Dr. Harris, I think I'll throw this one to you, and maybe Quinn can also hit on this as well. There's a question from a parent saying, how can I create opportunities? How can I build confidence in my son, my young Black male, that college and medical school is right for him? So advice to a parent?
So the advice I've given to parents previously is to help them engage with Black men who are in the space. I'll just take an example. In church, I just help them learn how to tie a bow tie. I mean, you've got to connect with them, find what is of interest to that young person. And then also find, Black men who are in the field who are approachable. We won't mince words and say everyone's approachable and everyone's interested in it, but make sure you make those right connections. I think having the key to understand what's important to that youth is what's really important, because, as you mentor, sometimes people say you got to make a person become like you. Well, let's not try to do that. Let's make them be more of who they already are. And that will be a way that we can connect. So I think that's really important.
Dr. Capers, anything to add on that?
Well, excellent words. I would add to that for the parents to simply let your child know that the history of our people, remind them that the history is one of persistence. We try and we try and we try. And when we fall down or think we fall down, we get back up. And that's so important. So being resilient and being persistent. If you fail a quiz or a test, that doesn't mean you can't get into medical school. If you didn't get into the college you wanted to, but you got into a college that you think is your second choice, that doesn't mean you can't get into medical school. I remember having science class, and it might have been the 5th or 6th grade, and it was being taught in a way that was really uninteresting and dry. And I remember the teacher saying something like, if there's anybody in here who thinks that you want to be a doctor, if you don't like this stuff, this subject matter, then you're thinking of the wrong thing. Well, I didn't like it because they weren't doing a good job of making it interesting, making it exciting. So I would say, let your child know that we all might stumble, we all might fail, but we are a resilient, persistent people, and not to let anybody turn them around.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And question just came across somewhat, very direct to each of you. So maybe each of you could give an instance of this. So what specifically, in your minds, negative is the kind of word they use, have you overcome, on your career path? So what have you surmounted basically to be where you are? Cameron, maybe I'll start with you. What challenge have you personally?
Yes. So fortunately, I've come from a loving 2-parent middle-class household. So I've always had the luxury of having my academic pursuits be supported. But something that most people don't know is that I actually failed my first organic chemistry class at Stanford University as a freshman. Up to this point, I had always been a straight A student. And throughout my first year at Stanford, I was also a straight A student. But it was just this one class that I just couldn't get it. And I didn't reach out, didn't get help, didn't go to office hours, didn't know how to ask for help, essentially. And so what happened as a result of this was that I was essentially put on academic probation for the next 3 quarters. Which was a shock to me because straight A student to academic probation at Stanford, I don't know how I got there, but I really had to evaluate whether I was a fraud and whether this was meant for me. But eventually I overcame it, and that led to more challenges. So because I missed that, because I didn't pass that class, I couldn't take the Orgo 2 and Orgo 3 that came up after it. So I had to wait another year to retake that course. And at that point, I was a year behind all my other pre-med colleagues. And for my sophomore, junior, and senior years, I had to take multiple pre-med classes every quarter. I even had to petition during my senior year to take more than the allotted course load. So the course load, I think, was a max of 20 units. I had to petition to take 22 units in my second to last quarter before graduating. So I really had to really know that medicine was for me to overcome that initial challenge.
Yeah, that's a great example. And you're here in medical school, right? So it can be done. Dale, Dr. Okorodudu, challenge you faced? Okay.
I've certainly faced challenges, and academically, I've done okay throughout the MCAT. I think it was a big struggle for a lot of people. I didn't do as well as I would have liked on the MCAT. I don't remember what the scoring system exactly what it was, but I know that my MCAT score was lower than the majority of people who were in my medical school class. One thing I want to say briefly is anytime you think about something that's a challenge, that's a negative, you have to find a way to turn that into a positive, a way to equip you, to strengthen you, that you can take that and use it to catapult yourself forward. There's a great book by Damon John called The Power of Broke. He didn't let being broke impact him. He used that as fuel, as energy to go on and be successful. So with the MCAT, I had a chip on my shoulder coming into medical school. So I had a chip on my shoulder. I didn't do as well as some of my classmates on this test, but I'm sitting here in the same class as them. So I've got to find a way to pick it back up and to make up that ground. And And I was able to do well enough throughout medical school and do a lot better on the standardized test in medical school. So I think to maybe make up for that. But, kind of the big message again, I would say there is, the listeners, I don't want you all to ever think that you've got a negative thing and that it's hard and it's a roadblock. Yes, you do have to overcome it, but take that and use it as fuel to make you better at the next level. That's what all this is about. How do you improve yourself? How do you get better at that next level?
That's right. Now, it's a very good point. And just to be clear, for those that are not unfamiliar with the acronym of the MCAT, it's the Medical College Admissions Test, a standardized exam similar to what you take coming out of high school, your ACT or your SAT. And just to be clear, as Dr. Dale articulated effectively, I think, that's a moment in time. That does not mean that score is not who you are. You have the ability to keep getting better if you keep working at it. So those, just as I said about financial aid, if you're serious about a career in medicine or a career as any professional, don't let a standardized exam be the barrier. You can surmount that as well. So great point. Dr. Harris, to you.
Well, I mean, I think about a quote where it says, what didn't work out for you really worked out for you. So, I, like Dale or Cameron, I came from a two-parent household, but my parents really weren't affluent. But I was like, you're going to go to college, and neither my parents had graduated from college when I went to college. So it was like, I got to do this. And I would sail through college, except for right at the end, because my school transferred from quarter to semester. They decided, well, you now owe us 2 more hours. And I had to overtake, the hours. So I think I had 22 or 23 hours my senior year. Who does that? Because I was anticipating trying to go to medical school. I go to medical school, hit a brick wall, and life just completely went upside down. And Cameron, I know about academic probation. So I've been there in medical school. So who's in academic probation in medical school? And the thing is, by having those roadblocks in that wall, it allowed me the ability to take a moment to extend that particular process. And when I did that, I became a part of the National Medical Association board as a student trustee. But because of then I got out of medical school, got into residency, hit another roadblock, and had to take a little leave for that during that period. And if I hadn't had that little roadblock, then I wouldn't have become like on the national board with NMA as a postgraduate trustee. And because when I was able to be the postgraduate trustee, that was the year NMA went to Hawaii. So all of a sudden I'm in Hawaii 3 times in a year and a half. How did that work for me? So I say, well, if things happen to you, keep going, keep moving. There's another plan. If you feel that you have a faith, the steps are ordered, don't give up. Reach out and find a way to make it happen.
That's right. I would only add, Dr. Harris, things will happen to you. That's just the way of the world, and you just have to keep going. So appreciate that point. Dr. Capers, to you.
So I would say for me, a couple of things conspired to what could have really been a real hurdle, and that is being a first-generation college student and also being shy. So people who don't know me that well don't know this about me, but really, I'm bashful. I'm a shy, bashful person. I've just had to, in my public life, force myself to be an extrovert. So when you think about those combinations, so K through 12, I went to public schools, and in public schools, at least in Dayton, Ohio, the textbooks were always free. The first day of school, whether it was history class or English class, after they told you what the class was about, they say, okay, now turn around and go back there and get your book. Well, neither of my parents went to college. And so I went off to college expecting that. So I never forget, my very first day at Howard University, it was a literature class. It had about 8 books. The teacher came in, she told us what it was all about. And then she said, okay, I'll see you on Wednesday. And I'm looking around, looking for the books in the back of the class, and they weren't there. All my classmates got up. They knew what they were doing. And so even though I was embarrassed, I had to ask the professor, where do you get the books? She looked at me like I was some country bumpkin. She said, the bookstore. So I went to the bookstore, and some people are paying cash. Some people are paying with credit cards. I had neither. And some people, every third person had something called a book voucher. Even though I was embarrassed, I had to pull one of them aside and say, hey, where you get this book voucher? And they said the financial aid office. So I went up there, and even though I was embarrassed, I had to ask. So what I'm trying to get across to you is, if you don't know the answer, you have to force yourself to be an extrovert and find out. As a pre-med, you might want to do research. You've got to force yourself to knock on a professor's door and ask, can you do research with them? You've got to knock on a professor's door and ask them for a letter of recommendation. So don't let your shyness or I don't want to be embarrassed by asking that question hold you back.
That's great advice. You know, I kind of follow that, you know, my own personal life too, Dr. Capers, you know, definitely a shy child and having to overcome that and fight through that. And I would tell everyone who's listening, you know, you will get, you know, 100% of the time, if you do not ask, you will not get. So make sure that you get comfortable asking and do your best to try to become an extrovert, at least in the moment, you know, in need for sure. Here's a real question that just came over. So, and maybe the best way to handle is to allow each of you who wants to, rather than me, you know, kind of pointing you out, you just jump in. It's a jump ball here. So my question is, how do you handle the subtle or outright racial mistreatment as a physician? Who wants to take that?
I can start it off. So that is going to happen, right? I walk into rooms and people don't know I'm the doctor, right? People think I'm transport. I've been asked, where am I taking the patients? And people look at me sometimes like, you can't be the doctor. You know, those things happen and I'm used to it, it's gonna happen. So I don't try to fight those things. What I always tell students, and what's very important, is you have to be excellent at your craft. That's most important. You have to be excellent at your craft. Let your craft speak for itself. If you are superb at what you do, then they'll want you to take care of them, right? If you're superb at what you, and if they don't want you to take care of them, that's their thing. But no matter what level you are at life, I say the number one thing is not necessarily trying to fight back, push back. Those things need to happen. But before those things happen, make sure you are superb at what you're there to do. So study hard, work hard, become the best doctor you can be excellent at your craft, and take your confidence in that. Don't take your external cues from people not wanting you to take care of them. That's their own issue, that's their own problem. There's nothing I can do about what they think about me. But what I can do is excel at my craft. So that is the way I've always approached that question.
Showing my age, my parents would say, don't lose your cool. And so I think it's really important to keep your composure, stay focused on why you're there, what you're there to do. And as Dale just mentioned, I mean, come in every day on your game, come in every day, looking the part, being the part, thinking the part, being ready to tackle those challenges. I mean, when I first started out, they were like, are you really going to take care of me? Because where I did medical school was in Appalachia, Tennessee. And so even though my hue is lighter than other Black men, it's still, I'm a Black man, and it's like, why are you here in the room? So you have to just stay focused and persevere through that, because those challenges are going to keep coming even through being an attending in your career.
Anybody else?
I think I'll just say that as you've heard, and I agree with my esteemed colleagues, you're going to face outright racial discrimination. You're going to face racism. But I was told, similar to what Dr. Dale was told by somebody as I was coming up, the only thing that overcomes unfairness is excellence. So be excellent at your craft. But it's still going to happen. So the other thing is, we talk a lot in medicine these days about wellness. So you got to protect your wellness. So you're going to face that. Be excellent. You're still going to face it, but be sure that you have something, that you have a release valve, whether it's your family, whether it's prayer, when I was in medical school, we actually put in our rigid schedule, play basketball from 4 to 5. Or watch Soul Train. I'm telling you my age, watch Soul Train Saturday from 12 to 1. But whatever that release is, so you're going to face the racism, be excellent, but be sure you have a way to protect your wellness and the health of your soul and your spirit.
Yeah, that's good. Can I ask two last questions here? Cameron, you brought this to mind, so this is a question I'm taking. Privilege here as the moderator. You talked about, I think the word you used was fraud. There's this concept called imposter syndrome, and all of you have achieved to a certain level already, whether you're already a physician, Cameron, you're a medical student. Just talk to me about that imposter syndrome and how you deal with it. The concept of, do I really belong here, especially when you hit that hurdles? How do you deal with that? Maybe Cameron, maybe I can start with you.
Yeah, so for me, how I dealt with it was I just had to take a look at myself and just decide what I wanted to be. Do I want to be this person who doubts myself continuously? Because I'm going to have these thoughts. Am I going to be consumed by them, or am I going to make the changes? So I looked at it as I took definitive steps. So I didn't do well in this course. What did I had to look at myself and say, what did I do wrong? And so I just found the issues that I had. I wasn't asking for help. I wasn't attending office hours. I wasn't meeting the professors. So the next time I went around, I made sure that I did all those things that I didn't previously do, because I didn't want to feel like that, feel like a fraud. I didn't want that to become my identity. So I just had to tell myself, like, that's not who I am. This is who I want to be. These are all the things that I've wanted to do. So this is just a challenge that's facing me. So I need to overcome it. And that's kind of the way I handled it.
Anybody else want to speak to that? Let me pivot to, it's also another one, what I'm calling a real question here. Serious question that just came across. A lot of our young Black boys are being raised in single family households, primarily single mother households. And I'm not sure everyone, but I heard several of you say, you had, two parents at home. What advice do you have, for a single mom raising a boy? Mom has aspirations for the child has aspirations, to be successful, to go to medical school and the like. What kind of advice would you have? Maybe Dr. Harris, I'll start with you.
Well, the advice I've given recently a single mother is to allow their son to be engaged in mentor type programs where they're able to see strong Black men, to allow them to have that imagery, to allow them to have that experience, and in a safe space and in a cultivating space. So this particular movement that we're a part of today, and others that are out there through other groups, don't hinder them from having those experiences, encourage those experiences, and foster those experiences, and allow them to do it. And that way they can see people that they would want to be and actually aspire for those roles.
And I think if I could jump in here, what I would say is, because I was raised by a single mother, listen to your mother. So to the boys out there, listen to your mother. She knows what she's talking about. Mothers, encourage your boys. If you don't have a brother, an uncle, a cousin, somebody in their life, encourage them to read about their heroes. So when people ask me who was my mentor at that early stage, I didn't have a doctor that was sitting down to me, encouraging me, but there are lots of doctors who have written books, such as Dr. Dale Okorodudu and others. So you can get your mentoring from right there. But for the boys out there, listen to your mother. My mother was my biggest fan and supporter, and I certainly wouldn't be here without her. So listen to your mom, guys.
I think that's the best advice that you can give, Dr. Capers. Listen to your mother. I love it. Let me begin the process here of wrapping up and getting to our final closing remarks. But I really want to thank all the panelists, each of you, for just being open and honest with your own challenges. There's never enough time to really cover the lay of the land. I saw a question come across, can we do more of this? The answer is absolutely yes. We're committed to doing that, doing more of this. We so appreciate you listening and participating today. We look forward to more. We have a final, really a treat for all of you, certainly a treat for me to close us out. We've asked Dr. James Griffin to give some closing remarks. You've heard, at least two of our panelists here are brand new to Dallas, and here's someone who is not brand new to Dallas, has been here a long time. Dr. Griffin has a unique perspective. He completed anesthesiology residency here at UT South Medical Center and underwent subspecialty training in anesthesia for neurological surgery at Parkland Hospital and Zaya Lipsky University Hospital. In addition to serving as a distinguished teaching professor here at UT Southwestern, he is Parkland's most senior African-American physician leader as the chief of anesthesiology and pain management program. I can also say that he's a gentleman and a statesman. He leads by example and is a mentor to many. He was the first African-American hired as UT Southwestern anesthesiology faculty. And on top of all of this, he was actually born right there at Parkland. So like I said, he's been here a long time. Dr. Griffin, the virtual podium is yours.
Dr. Nevay, thank you so much for those comments. And I want to thank our panelists. It is amazing to hear how the common aspects of our experience actually come together. What we've experienced today is high-level imagery. The filmmakers, our panelists have allowed us to peek behind the curtain and truly see Black men in white coats. If we starve our boys and young men of the images, it is difficult for them to embrace the age-old saying, you have to see it to be it. Images influence us in all aspects of our life. They inform our conscious and unconscious self. Imagery is the nidus of our dreams. I dream, our panelists, our filmmakers, we all dream. We dream of a day when more than 2% of boys and Black males aspire to have careers in medicine. I'd like to thank Parkland. I'd like to thank Children's Health, UT Southwestern, for providing platforms of opportunity. I was grateful a few months ago when I heard the supportive comments of Dr. Dan Podolsky and listened to the passion of Dr. Fred Cerise, CEO of Parkland Hospital, as the nation witnessed a horrific event, the extinguishing of a life that lasted 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Certainly and surely our future is brighter than that. It's interesting that the conversation went in a certain direction, and I didn't share my notes with anybody, but I wanted to close with an appeal to the pillars of the Black community, our MVPs, those most valuable people, and that's our Black moms and grandmothers. Please bring the light of imagery and imagination to the minds of our Black boys and young men. Encourage them in the direction of medicine. If anyone on this call doubts or has any issue with the power of our MVPs and the power of Black girl magic, ask the new senators from the state of Georgia, ask the President of the United States. If that Black girl magic can put 2 men in the US Senate, can put a man in the White House, certainly we can assist them in creating the next generation of Black men in white coats. I want to thank everybody for their participation. I'll turn it back over to Dr. Nevay for closing. Thank you.
Dr. Griffith, spectacular. I just want to end, we're over time. I just want to say thank you for all of what you have done, what you continue to do. Thank you again to our panelists, and more importantly, thank you for all of those fantastic young boys watching us today. Thank you for all the parents watching us today. Thank you to all the Black women watching us today. And thank you everyone for being part of this. And Dr. Dale, let me just end by saying thank you to you for your vision, your creativity, and really taking the mantle up and pushing all of us to the next level. Peace. I was going to say peace, love, and so bye, everybody.